Hello and welcome back. Today I'm continuing on my painting made from a collage. So I'm looking at my collage that I made previously as reference, and I'm painting what I see in the images that I chose for my collage. Um, and when you do this, you can decide how detailed you want to get. In some places, I'll definitely simplify the images from my collage, and some places I'll try to get all those details as close as I can. And it's going to be a lot of observation, a lot of trying to match colors. And I find what is a good way to do it, sort of how we started last time, is to work section by section. So I'm starting here with my sort of background section that's a landscape. And if you're working with acrylic paint like I'm working, you can decide which areas you want to blend the paint together, and which areas you want to let the paint dry so that you can put a layer on top of that. And as I work section by section, I will identify in each section the dark and the light areas. And I find that's usually a good way to start. First, by either picking out if there's any pure whites, very light colors, or if there's any areas of great darkness, shadows, or any areas of pure black. So I put down a layer of white where I saw snow in my landscape photo that I'm looking at. And then I also identified the darkest areas, the tree line in the background, which I punched in with that pure black. I blended some of my colors together to make sort of a fade between those grays on those mountains. And then now that that layer has dried, I can put the white layer right on top of that without it blurring together. Sometimes while I'm waiting for one section to dry, I'll move on and start painting on the next section. And then when I finish that area, usually the other area is dry by then. Sometimes you'll find, as I'm finding right now, that some colors are a little bit see through, whereas other colors are opaque. Um, some of the yellow that I'm using right now is kind of a see through color, it's a little transparent. One way that you can overcome the transparency of a color, if you want that color punched in really strong, is to either add a little bit of white, or after you've painted one layer, you can come back and add a second layer just to make it a little more opaque. So I'm working on the very background right now, and I'm just doing my best to match what I see in my collage, match the colors and the shapes. So since my yellow color that I'm using here is pretty see-through, when that first layer that I did dried, I came back in to put a second layer over it just to make it a little bit more opaque. As I move on to the next area, I'm beginning in a very similar way where I'm identifying the dark areas and the light areas, trying to match my colors as best I can. I'm trying to match the colors that I see in my collage as close as I can. So putting in some dark areas right now, punching in areas of heavy shadow with my black, defining the folds on the fabric. As I start to paint this face, I'm putting down a thin layer of fresh, wet paint, which I will work on top of while it's wet. That way I can really blend in my colors where I want to. So I started with one layer of paint, and now using a little bit of white mixed in, I'm adding areas that I see in the reference are a little bit lighter. Next, I use a slightly darker color, and I'm going to start to build up the areas that I see have more shadow. Next, I'm using a black to really fill in those areas where it's very dark and there's a lot of heavy shadows. Just touching up a few areas where I think it should be a little darker. Moving on to the pattern uh, that is on this dress. And again, I'm just trying to match the colors as close as I can in the reference photo that I'm working from.